My name is Charlotte Rivers, and I am 26 years old. I live in Brookhaven, Maine, a small town where everyone knows each other, and the whisper of a scandal travels faster than the wind. Growing up here has shaped me in many ways. I am fiercely loyal to my family and friends, and I have always believed in fighting for what is right. However, my faith in justice was tested when I found myself in a nightmare that seemed impossible to navigate. A few years ago, while I was still a college student, I made a decision that would change the course of my life. I had just moved to a new country and was struggling to adjust. The language barrier was overwhelming, and that made me vulnerable. I needed a new phone, and I believed I could trust a man I had worked with before. He had been introduced to my family as our translator and personal assistant. We had dealt with him on several occasions, and everything had gone smoothly. This time, however, it was different. He offered a price for a phone that seemed too high but provided a payment plan in return. Rushed and trusting, I agreed, hoping for the best. It was not long before the phone started malfunctioning. Instead of the new gadget I had expected, I received a refurbished phone that barely worked. When it began asking for someone else's iCloud login, panic set in. I immediately reached out to him for a resolution and requested the receipt so I could verify what I had actually purchased. What happened next shattered my trust. Instead of a simple fix, he turned hostile and aggressive. I should mention that I have a famous family member who, while not a celebrity in the typical sense, is well known enough that any drama involving us could lead to unnecessary media attention. Once he realized who I was connected to, the situation morphed into something insidious. It became less about the phone and more about my family's reputation. After numerous failed attempts at mediation and discussions, he took a step I never expected. He sued me and even dragged my innocent family member into the mix, trying to use their name to further his own agenda. The humiliation was unbearable, and I felt the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders. I wanted nothing more than for it all to go away, but he was relentless. He pushed the story to the media, turning my life into a spectacle and heightening my distress. In those moments, I learned how cruel humans can be when they seek power over others. In the aftermath, my intrigue turned to obsession. I knew I had to do something to regain control over my life, so I set out to uncover the truth about him. I made fake social media profiles and connected with mutual acquaintances, even sending a friend to befriend him at his church. I know it sounds crazy, but the thought of living with this man's actions hanging over my life was more than I could bear. I was driven to find out who he truly was and what made him tick. Months went by as I gathered information, and what I uncovered shook me to my core. His fraudulent actions extended far beyond our little dispute. He had deceived the authorities to obtain residency in the country. What a con artist. In that moment of revelation, I felt a surge of power. Armed with information I thought could end his reign of terror over my life, I made an anonymous tip to the police, hoping that they would take it seriously. I was uncertain if anything would come of it, so I left it in the hands of fate and went on with my life, albeit a little more cautiously. But a year and a half later, curiosity got the better of me, and I searched for updates. What I discovered was astonishing: an active federal investigation into him. I could hardly believe my eyes. Reports indicated that authorities were looking into his conduct, and a spark of hope ignited within me. Time passed, and I closely followed the details of the investigation without revealing my involvement. Then, the day I had been dreaming of finally arrived. He was convicted of a serious federal offense. Joy filled my heart as I realized that he was not only facing repercussions for his actions, but would also endure a year of community service and potential deportation after serving his time. The world felt lighter, and I savored every moment of relief. Now, the story does not end with his conviction. The aftermath held its own complexities. As I watched him fight against his sentencing and attempt to appeal, I realized the consequences of my actions were far-reaching. I had risked everything to bring this man to justice for what he had put me and my family through. In my heart, I believed that the universe had a way of balancing the scales of injustice. I learned that in the face of adversity, sometimes the most powerful weapon is not anger or violence, but the audacity to fight back with intelligence and stealth. My life after that was different. I felt more empowered, ready to stand up for myself. I had turned my pain into purpose, and I was no longer a victim of circumstance. As I reflect on that dark time, I can finally breathe without the weight of fear holding me back, yet a little part of me still feels the thrill of the unexpected. I may have won this battle, but I remain cautious about the future, knowing that justice has a way of surprising us all. And who knows? This story might just be the spark for my own next adventure, as life in Brookhaven continues to unfold in unexpected ways.